The night my sister stole everything from me, I didn't scream. I didn't call the police. I didn't even confront her. I simply sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the empty closet where half my clothes had been, the missing jewelry box on my dresser, and the bank statement showing that nearly every dollar I had saved was gone. My sister, Emily, had taken my money, my jewelry, my laptop, important family documents, and even the antique watch my grandfather had left me. But what hurt the most wasn't what she stole. It was the fact that she had spent years convincing my family that I was selfish, cold, and ungrateful while she played the role of the loving daughter. Everyone believed her. My parents defended her. My relatives blamed me. And when I finally discovered where she had taken everything, I thought my life was over. Then I made one phone call. Just one. I spoke to a person Emily never expected me to contact. And within 24 hours, her entire life began falling apart. My name is Lauren Carter, and for most of my life, my younger sister Emily was the person I trusted more than anyone. We were 3 years apart. I was the responsible one. Emily was the charming one. I always followed the rules. She always found a way around them. I worked hard in school. She was the kind of person who could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with 10 new friends. My parents loved us both, but they treated us very differently. When I made a mistake, I was expected to fix it. When Emily made a mistake, someone usually fixed it for her. When I got my first job at 16, my father told me I was learning responsibility. When Emily got fired from her first job at 19, my mother said her manager had probably been unfair. I didn't resent her for it. At least, I didn't think I did. After college, I moved to Chicago and started working in financial administration. I wasn't rich. I wasn't famous. I simply had a stable job, a nice apartment, and a carefully planned life. I saved money every month. I paid my bills on time. I had retirement investments. I had an emergency fund. And I owned a small collection of jewelry that my grandmother had left me. My grandfather's old mechanical watch was my most valuable possession emotionally. It wasn't worth a fortune, but he had given it to me before he died. He told me, "Keep this until you're old enough to understand what time is worth." I wore it whenever I had an important meeting. I loved that watch. Emily knew that. She knew everything about my life. We talked every week. At least I thought we did. Then Emily started having money problems. She had moved to Los Angeles and was trying to launch a small event planning business. At first, she sounded excited. Then the excitement disappeared. She started asking for money. The first time, it was $500. She said it was for an unexpected car repair. I sent it. The second time, it was $1,200. She said a client had delayed payment. I sent that too. Then she asked for $3,000. I refused. She became angry. "You have savings." "Yes." "You don't need all of it. It's my emergency fund." She laughed. "What's the point of having money if you won't help your own sister?" I told her I had already helped. She hung up. For several weeks, we barely spoke. Then my mother called. She said, "Emily is struggling." I said, "I know. She needs help. I've already given her money." My mother sighed. "Lauren, you're her sister." I replied, "And I'm not an ATM." My mother became quiet. Then she said, "You're becoming very selfish." That word stayed with me. Selfish. I had spent my entire life helping my family. But somehow, the moment I set a boundary, I became selfish. I didn't argue. I simply ended the conversation. A month later, Emily apologized. She called me crying. She said she had been stressed. She said she loved me. She said she didn't want money anymore. She just wanted her sister back. I believed her. That was my mistake. Emily came to Chicago for a week. She stayed at my apartment. We had dinner. We talked. We laughed about childhood memories. She even wore my old jacket around the city. For the first time in months, I thought things were normal again. On her last night, we drank wine and talked until midnight. She asked me about my finances. I laughed. Why are you asking? She said, I'm just curious. I told her about my retirement account, my savings, my investments. I even told her about a small inheritance I was expecting from an estate settlement. She asked how much. I told her. She smiled. Wow. I didn't think anything of it. The next morning, she hugged me before leaving. I love you. I love you too. She smiled. Then she left. 3 days later, I received an alert from my bank. There was a withdrawal I didn't recognize. I opened the app. My heart stopped. There were several transfers. 1, 2, 3. The money was moving from my savings account into another account. I called the bank. They froze everything. But the damage was already done. Nearly $28,000 had been transferred. I sat on my bed staring at the screen. I couldn't understand it. Then I checked my laptop. It was missing. My jewelry box was missing. My grandfather's watch was missing. My passport. My birth certificate. My social security documents. Everything important was gone. I called Emily. No answer. I called again. Nothing. Then I called my mother. She answered. I said, "Where is Emily?" She said, "I don't know." Did she call you? No. Mom, I think she stole from me. There was a pause. Then my mother said something I will never forget. Are you sure? I couldn't believe it. Mom, my money is gone. Maybe there's an explanation. My jewelry is gone. Lauren, my passport is gone. She became silent. I said, Emily took it. My mother finally said, don't accuse your sister without proof. I hung up. I called the police. I filed a report. Then I started investigating everything myself. The bank confirmed that the transfers had been authorized through my laptop. That meant someone had used my saved banking credentials. I changed every password. I froze my credit. I contacted the passport office. I contacted the bank. I contacted my employer. And then I found something strange. My laptop had been connected to a Wi-Fi network in Los Angeles, Emily's city. That was enough for me. I called her again. This time, she answered. I said, where are my things? Silence. Then she said, what are you talking about? My money. I don't know. My laptop. Lauren, I didn't take anything. My grandfather's watch. She paused. That pause told me everything. I said, you stole from me. She shouted, don't call me a thief. You are a thief. She started crying. Then she said, you don't understand what I'm going through. I said, you stole almost $30,000. I was going to pay you back. You stole my identity documents. I needed them. You took Grandpa's watch. She became silent. Then she said, you have everything. I froze. What? You have everything, Lauren. I said, so you decided to take mine. She hung up. I sat there staring at my phone. I called my father. He answered. I told him what happened. He said, Emily wouldn't do that. I said, she admitted it. What did she admit? She said she needed the money. He became quiet. Then he said, maybe you should talk to her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad, she stole from me. He said, she's your sister. I replied, so. He said, Family doesn't turn on family. I laughed bitterly. Then why does family keep turning on me? He didn't answer. That night, I made a decision. I stopped asking my family to believe me. I would prove everything. I contacted the bank. I contacted law enforcement. I hired an attorney. Then we traced the transfers. The money had gone through several accounts. Eventually, we discovered that some of it had been used to pay off Emily's credit cards. Some went toward her car loan. Some went to an event planning business account. And some had been used to purchase a luxury watch. I stared at that last transaction. A luxury watch. I called the store. They couldn't give me details immediately. But my attorney obtained the records. The watch had been purchased using money from my account. The model was worth nearly $9,000. I couldn't believe it. Then I remembered something. Emily had always wanted expensive things. She had once told me that she was tired of being the poor sister. Apparently, she had finally decided to solve that problem with my money. But there was something else. The identity documents. Why did she take those? That question bothered me. My attorney started digging. And then we found it. Emily had opened accounts using my identity. Credit cards. Business accounts. A loan application. She had used my credit history because hers was terrible. My stomach dropped. This wasn't simply theft. She had been using my identity. And the damage could have followed me for years. I had enough evidence to press serious charges. My attorney told me to prepare for a long legal process. I expected Emily to disappear. Instead, she called me. She said, "Please don't do this." I asked, "Do what?" "You know what?" I said, "You stole my identity." I was desperate. "You stole my money." I was going to pay it back. "You stole Grandpa's watch." I needed money. I said, "You sold it." She became silent. That hurt more than anything. I asked, "You sold his watch?" She whispered, "Yes." I closed my eyes. I didn't care about the $28,000 anymore. I cared about that watch. I said, "You knew what that meant to me." She said, "I'm sorry." I replied, "No, you're sorry because you got caught." She started crying. Then she said something that shocked me. "Mom knows." I froze. "What?" "Mom knew I needed money." I asked, "Did she know you stole from me?" She didn't answer. "Emily," she whispered, "she knew I had your information." I hung up. I immediately called my mother. She answered. I said, "How much did you know?" She didn't speak. "Mom." Finally, she said, "I knew Emily was having problems." "Did you know she had my documents?" Silence. "Did you know she used my identity?" My mother started crying. "Lauren, I didn't know she would do this." I couldn't believe it. "You knew she had my information." I thought she was just trying to get a loan." I said, "Using my identity." She said, "I thought it was temporary." I stared at the wall. My mother had known. Not everything, but enough. I asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" She cried. "Because I was trying to protect her." That sentence changed everything. I realized my family had spent years protecting Emily from consequences. But they had never protected me. They protected her when she failed. They protected her when she lied. They protected her when she borrowed money. And now they had protected her when she stole from me. I told my mother, "I'm done." Then I made the phone call. The one phone call that changed Emily's life forever. I called the detective assigned to my case. I told him everything. I gave him the bank records, the account transfers, the identity documents, the messages, the business records, the information my attorney had collected. Then I gave him something else. The location of my grandfather's watch. Because we had found it. Emily had sold it to a pawn shop in Los Angeles. The detective contacted the shop. The watch was still there. It was recovered. When I held it again, I almost cried. It still worked. The hands moved exactly as they had when my grandfather wore it. I put it on my wrist. Then I went home. The legal process took months. Emily was charged with multiple offenses related to theft and identity fraud. Her business collapsed. Her reputation disappeared. Her friends learned what she had done. The people she had borrowed money from stopped trusting her. She had to repay what she could. She lost the apartment. She lost the car. And she had to face the consequences she had spent her entire life avoiding. My parents were devastated. My mother blamed herself. My father blamed me at first. He said I had destroyed the family. I looked at him and said, I didn't steal anything. He became angry. You pressed charges against your own sister. I said, your daughter stole from me. She was desperate. So was I. He stopped. I continued. When I struggled, I worked. When Emily struggled, she stole. He didn't respond. I said, I'm not responsible for the consequences of her choices. Months passed. My credit was repaired. The fraudulent accounts were closed. My savings were slowly rebuilt. I had to replace my passport and documents. I had to spend countless hours cleaning up a mess I never created. But I survived. Then, one afternoon, Emily called. She was crying. She said, I lost everything. I almost laughed. I remembered the title she had unknowingly written for her own story. She had thought she could take everything from me. Now she was saying she had lost everything. I asked, what do you want? She said, I want you to forgive me. I was silent. Then I said, I forgive you. She started crying harder. But I wasn't finished. I forgive you because I don't want to carry this anger forever. She said, thank you. But forgiveness doesn't mean trust. She went quiet. It doesn't mean I'm going to pretend nothing happened. I know. And it doesn't mean I'll ever give you access to my life again. She started crying. I said, you made that choice when you stole from me. Then I ended the call. I never spoke to her again. My relationship with my parents slowly changed too. My mother eventually admitted that she had spent years protecting Emily because she believed Emily was fragile. She said she thought I was strong enough to handle anything. I told her something she needed to hear. Being strong doesn't mean I don't get hurt. She cried. I forgave her too. But I kept my boundaries. I stopped sharing financial information. I stopped discussing my investments. I stopped giving family members access to my personal documents. And I learned to say no without feeling guilty. A year later, I received a small package in the mail. There was no return address. Inside was a note. It was from Emily. She said she had completed a financial counseling program. She had gotten a job. She was paying back some of the money. She said she finally understood what she had done. At the end, she wrote, I used to think you were lucky because you had everything. Now I understand that you built everything. I tried to take your life because I was too ashamed to build my own. I read that sentence several times. Then I put the letter away. I didn't respond. Some apologies don't require an answer. Some relationships don't need to be restored. And some doors are better left closed. Today, I still have my grandfather's watch. I wear it on important days. Sometimes I look down at it and remember what he told me. Keep this until you're old enough to understand what time is worth. I understand now. Time is worth more than money. More than jewelry. More than possessions. My sister stole almost everything she could physically take. Money, jewelry, documents, technology. She even stole years of peace from me. But she couldn't steal my future. And she couldn't steal the person I became after all of it. The strangest thing about the entire experience is that my sister thought she was taking what I had. She never understood how I got it. I didn't have money because I was lucky. I had it because I worked. I didn't have stability because life was easy. I had it because I planned. I didn't have trust because people owed it to me. I had it because I earned it. Emily thought she could steal the results without understanding the work behind them. But life doesn't work that way. You can steal someone's money. You can steal their possessions. You can even temporarily damage their reputation. But you can't steal the discipline that helped them build their life. You can't steal their resilience. You can't steal their ability to start over. And you definitely can't steal the truth forever. My family spent years protecting Emily. They told me to forgive her. They told me not to make things worse. They told me family should stay together. But family isn't an excuse for betrayal. Family isn't permission to steal. Family isn't a reason to tolerate abuse. Real family should make you feel safe. Not afraid to lock your bedroom door. Not afraid to check your bank account. Not afraid to leave your laptop unattended. And definitely not afraid that someone you love might destroy your identity. I used to think pressing charges against my sister made me cruel. Now I understand that allowing her to continue would have been cruel to myself. The one phone call I made didn't ruin Emily's life. Her choices did. That phone call simply stopped everyone from protecting her from the consequences. And that changed her life forever. My sister thought she stole everything from me. She was wrong. She stole things. But she didn't steal everything. She didn't steal my future. She didn't steal my strength. She didn't steal my memories. She didn't steal my grandfather's love. And she definitely didn't steal my ability to rebuild. In the end, I got something back that was worth more than everything she took. I got my peace back. And sometimes, that's the greatest revenge of all.